questions.
Can I just say right now I feel totally great with where we are, and that everything else is just sort of a list of things that I want people to understand may have a place for them to understand, but very possibly not. So I feel good about where we are.
Well, the rest is, of course, then the practical day-to-day management. Sort of many of these other issues are sort of, okay, well, we're here today, we're not detoxed yet, we haven't stopped these things yet, and my kid is having a fit, what do I do? Yeah? And this is, quite honestly, also not my strength. My strength is getting these kids well on the long run. Where mom comes in, and a year later, 2 years later, the kid is well. That's my goal. Everything in between, I'm not that great at. The day-to-day struggle with, what you do when the kid doesn't sleep and doesn't poop, and those things. I give you my experiences with it. And you have to sort of.
Cool. Lunchtime. Do you want to go to the lip song? Okay, say that again. Okay, Dr. Klingon's drinking out of a pretty glass bottle, murky-colored water, and he explained to us that.
First of all, you should only drink out of glass bottles.
Okay.
It goes without saying because of the
PVB,
the volatile organic compounds that come out of plastic kill you over time. But all the herbs that I recommend, like the NDF, the Samento, the Noni, should go in a large body of water.
Okay.
And rather than taking a drops, like I said before, like 3 times a day, you drink it in little sips throughout the day. And by taking herbs this way, they separate out the different molecules and regain a much, much stronger biological effect. And we're adding to this always some electrolyte solution.
Okay.
That's the matrix electrolytes from BioPure. And that gives it an effect where the herbs are completely absorbed in the gut and very rapidly shuttled to the places where they need to go. The beautiful thing with herbs is that they're intelligent. Plants are intelligent. Pharmaceuticals are dumb.
Right.
They don't know where to go. They go everywhere and nowhere. But plants, they're target specific. So Samento has an affinity for Lyme contaminated areas in the body, so it will accumulate in that area. And so by doing something like this, it dramatically enhances the effect of herbs. Herbs are very misunderstood. Like if you take herbal tinctures, they only have the fat-soluble component of the herb. If you take a dried herb, it only has the water-soluble component because the fat-soluble evaporates within a couple of days of making the herb. So you can either do an alcoholic extract or you can a dried herb, and both is only half of what you need. And now the Samento and the Noni that I mentioned, they're non-alcoholic macerates. That means that the herb is the whole herb is used in a fluid base where the volatile compounds don't escape, and is prepared in a way that has everything in it. And then when you spread that in a large volume of water, you get a dramatic biological effect.
Okay, now I'm going to be a mom, so you can make it taste good for the kid to eat it. Would either stevia or xylitol ruin the properties?
No, absolutely not.
So now you have sort of a
FOS is a great one.
fructooligosaccharides, which is the
for
perfect.
sweetening. Xylitol, mannose, and fructooligosaccharides are my favorite sweeteners because they have this beautiful antibacterial effect as well.
Yeah.
But you don't like stevia, or are you okay with stevia?
No, stevia is fine. It's not everybody's taste.
That's a taste issue there.
And no steroidal effect though with stevia?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, so do you want to go right next to the plate? When I look at the list, the one thing that's sort of missing is the visual of the healing continuum that I talked to you about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
But I just sort of, and when I talked to Dr. Hoffman about it, he actually sent me a picture of one, but it went in the opposite direction. But I think it's just important for parents to be able to sort of envision health as being on a continuum, that they're always either getting more healthy or less healthy, and I think it gives them a visual reference to then see that of course their child can heal and be healthier. Is the only.
It's a similar. I took a part of that, with your permission. That was in the beginning. Either when your body is here, you're either accumulating more toxin, more illness than you're excreting,
Right.
or you're accumulating less than you're excreting. You know,
Right.
that's the same. It's the same
So we
thing.
can
It's
put
just
them
a portion-
together.
It's just a part of that. You know, I just reduced that model to just a toxic component.
But it gives parents a really good visual of in, out, where
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what are we doing?
Okay. Now we're going to talk about damage repair. It's basically the large chapter of what we're doing now. We're looking now at, okay, the toxins have come in, they've left some damage behind, and the damage can be on many different levels: biochemical, energetic, psychological, behavioral, socially. Kids are disconnected, they don't have
The
friends.
enzymatic pathway.
Yeah, and we want to look at the grasp out of the multitude of these things, a few things that are important to you. Look at some of these issues that we know about autistic kids. And
I want to
then
pause you right there for a
what to
second.
do
One thing
about
we
it.
said in the car, Jimmy was like, I can't quite get a feel on where Dr. Klinghardt is with Dr. Buttar versus Dr. Yasko. And what I tried to explain was that I thought you had a great respect for both of them for different reasons, but probably why you were coming off, pro Buttar a little bit is what his perception was simply because you feel like he's attacking the causal piece of it directly, and I think the Dr. Yasko protocol seems to be a lot more driven at some of these results. Would you say that's
Yeah,
accurately put?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But I, in our conversations, I think you had an extreme amount of respect for how incredibly intelligent, and you said she should win the Nobel Prize, Dr. Yasko, for
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. There's no no doubt about it that she is a real genius.
right.
Whereas Dr. Buttar is just simply somebody who's recognized the simple truth that's behind it all,
And then came up with a real genius way
and
to
came up with a simple solution,
right.
to fix the most causal fundamental problem.
Okay, good. I just sort of wanted to get that out for people.
But it's
Okay.
like, anybody to understand Dr. Buttar's treatment, to explain that to a layperson, takes about 2 minutes. To explain Dr. Yasko's treatment to a layperson will take about 2 months of regular training,
Right.
and then a two-day lecture. So
Right.
it's intellectually at a very different level and much harder to grasp, and therefore may not be totally suitable for a protocol.
It becomes less tangible,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's not as simple because the sequence may change depending on the testing that's done. Even though I feel that, like any one of us, Dr. Yasko is also approaching a firm protocol. That for 90% of the kids will work if you
Right.
do things in the sequence with her with her products.
Right. And you're definitely saying that the idea of signaling to the body in a sequence that, for example, first, you need to notice, body, that you've got measles growing in your small intestine. Okay, now that we've got that sort of under control, and just on that note, when you look at Metals One, like she's described it, I think with the help of Dr. Gordon, because they really realized that's where sort of the market was, I think,
Yeah.
and people needed to understand that that's what was happening to sort of
Yeah.
embrace it. But one of the things that she's noticed, and I'd like to talk to you about this, is when you do Metals One, the RNA that she has, or some other signaling to the body that you've got measles in the small intestine, wouldn't it behoove you to simply treat for the measles at the same time with like the high dose vitamin A and for a few days and maybe Valtrex, or wouldn't that make sense to
Absolutely.
pulse that stuff in?
Absolutely. I think, rather than, I think when it comes down to the treatment to specific issues,
Right.
I always like at the different, what I call look at the different kingdoms. The mineral kingdom,
Okay.
like for example, to treat the measles, we know that copper is a very strong antiviral agent.
Okay.
Yeah? And magnesium, iron, some of the bad things that are usually bad and other things are good for the viral thing. That's the mineral kingdom.
Okay.
Then I like to look at the herbal kingdom.
Okay.
There's certain plants like chaparral is a very strong herbal antiviral agent that works very well for the measles.
Okay.
And I look at the vitamin kingdom, and there's
Okay.
vitamin A. Yeah, and then there's homeopathy, the kingdom of homeopathy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the measles nosode.
Okay.
Plus, then some individual constitutional remedies that would enhance that.
And then RNA would be kind of almost its own kingdom.
Well, the RNA, you know, of course, when I say the measles nosode, I think RNA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the measles nosode is RNA plus a few other things.
So you would attack it from many different areas.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
kind of go through all these different, let's call them kingdoms,
Okay.
and choose one intervention on each level. And by combining a mild intervention on each level, you get a synergistic effect. Yeah.
Okay.
When things are from a different kingdom, working for the same thing, they always have a synergistic effect.
Okay.
However, if I take two herbs that are meant to both treat the measles, they could conflict with each other.
Okay.
Or if I take two minerals, there's some benefits from giving zinc, there's some benefits from giving copper, but if you both give them together, you probably won't get much of a benefit.
Okay. So what I see sort of.
So the
Go
trick
ahead.
with synergy, you know, that as you mentioned in the title of the book, the trick with synergy is if you don't use muscle testing, you can create a synergistic concoction of things by picking one intervention from each of these different kingdoms and put
Okay.
them together. They will always have a synergistic effect. Whereas
Okay.
if you pick one from the same kingdom, they fight with each other. It's very
Okay.
similar with birds. You know, when you look at how birds are nesting, it is very often seen that you have a robin, you know, nesting next to a sparrow, next to another bird, but you never see two robins in the same tree.
Okay.
They fight
okay.
with each other. There's
Okay.
no synergy between them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's the same with these interventions that we need to look at.
So it sounds like what we're sort of honing in on now is really addressing the cause, which is neurotoxicity, from different angles, trying to handle the xenobiotics with some form of glycine and different things there, and then trying to address sort of this total pathogen burden as one of the things. But then we could pulse in or sequence in these different attempts to attack these different microbes that have taken up host in a certain organ, which is the Yasko approach, and come up with a nice little cocktail of things that would enhance the Yasko approach.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're
So I
starting to
would-
hone in on something
Yeah,
pretty good.
so I would completely follow her sequence in sequencing things.
Okay.
I would add in the TDDMPS and make
Okay.
that much more stronger than her EDTA approach, even though
But you could do both.
you can easily do both.
And I would do both because they do very different
Yeah,
jobs.
they do very different jobs. They
Okay.
work in very different biochemical pathways and ways.
Because I see the EDTA as keeping the daily bioaccumulation that you can't avoid from getting into the body by putting it in the bath water, because you're cleaning the skin off of the stuff that you accumulate all day, and you're cleaning the bath water. And when you take it orally, or you could do like a chlorella, you're just absorbing the toxins before they sit there and get pulled in.
It's just, you know, from a point of economy, you know, when we talk
Right.
the shortest way from A to B, you know, so if you want to leave away something,
That you could leave away.
you
Right?
know, then I'd go with the TDDMPS rather than the EDTA.
Sure.
But in addition to that, I do think high-dose vitamin A for a short while for the measles is a very good support.
Okay.
Taking some herbal antivirals would be a very good idea.
Real quick on the vitamin A, I know there's a lot of controversy because I tend to post things as I learn
Yeah.
them, and I posted the whole high dose vitamin A for measles thing, and there was a bunch of brouhaha about that. And Dr. Yasko mentioned that in vitamin A deficiency, vitamin A is wonderful as an antiviral, but without vitamin A deficiency, vitamin A can actually make the virus more hardy. Does that sound? Or would they all be vitamin A deficient based
It's
on?
just, I just talk from clinical experience, you know,
Okay.
when young children are not vaccinated and they get the measles, we give them high-dose vitamin A, and then
Okay.
the course of the measles is like a mild viral illness. They get a temperature of 99 degrees, you know, so
Okay.
they're a day out of school. It is a very mild illness, and
Okay.
I've done it so many times and haven't seen any downside to it that I'm wondering why it's not the gold standard.
Right.
You know, in terms of vitamin A toxicity, we know that from all the studies that you have to take it for 6 months at doses of exceeding 150,000 units a day for the toxicity to occur, and it's just not realistic in our
Right.
world. And when we're talking about high-dose vitamin A, I'm talking 1 week 3 weeks max.
Okay.
You know, and so I think the issue of toxicity and the downside of it you'll never see.